The day before the wedding, I found a pregnancy test report in my fiancée Roxana's bag. 8 weeks. We hadn't slept together in 3 months. When I showed her the report, she burst into tears and said, "I'm sorry. I can't forget him." The him she mentioned was her first love, Damien. The Mao family gave me $50 million as a breakup fee, asking me to leave with dignity. I smiled, signed the papers, and that very day, transferred $80 million from the company account. 3 months later, I appeared before Roxana again, with my new girlfriend by my side. Her eyes were red as she asked, "Jacob, how can you be so heartless?" I tightened my arm around the woman beside me and said coldly, "Miss Mao, we're not acquainted." Main story. The night before our engagement party, Roxana Mao said she was tired and wanted to rest early. I thoughtfully poured her a glass of warm water and watched as she swallowed her prenatal pill. Yes, prenatal pill. She thought I didn't know, but yesterday, while she was showering, I found that pregnancy report in her bag. 8 weeks. Single fetus. Healthy development. We hadn't touched each other for 3 months. She said she was too exhausted from work, that her body didn't feel well. I believed her, and even cooked her tonic soups in different styles every day. Thinking about it now, what a damn joke. I sat on the couch and lit a cigarette. In the hazy smoke, I remembered the first time I met Roxana 3 years ago. Back then, I had just started my business. The company had only $200,000 in its account. She was the Mao family's heiress, yet she was willing to eat street food with me. She said she liked my ambition, liked how well I treated her, and I believed her. In 3 years, I grew the company to a valuation of $500 million. For her, I turned down all social engagements and went home on time every single day. But her. On the nights I was working overtime, she rekindled her romance with her first love, Damien. From the bedroom came the sound of her breathing, light, steady. I stubbed out my cigarette, opened my mobile banking app, and began transferring money. There were $83 million in the company account, the fruit of 3 years of my hard work. I transferred it, bit by bit, into my personal account. Each transaction was under $2 million to avoid triggering the risk control system. When I was making the final transfer, Roxana suddenly came out of the bedroom. "Still awake?" she asked, rubbing her eyes softly. I turned off the phone screen. "Couldn't sleep. You thirsty?" She walked over and glanced at the ashtray on the coffee table. "Smoking again? I thought you were quitting." "I'll quit tomorrow," I said with a smile. She smiled too, leaned over to kiss me, and said, "Then I'll go back to sleep. We still need to confirm the ceremony with the wedding planner tomorrow." "Roxana," I called out. If one day, we're no longer right for each other, what would you do?" She froze for a moment, then smiled. "Why are you asking that all of a sudden? We're doing just fine." I just felt like asking. "I'd definitely be sad," she said seriously. "But if that day ever comes, I'd respect your choice." Beautiful words. Too bad they were fake. I watched her return to the bedroom and completed the last few transfers. At 3 a.m., the $80 million were all transferred out. I sent a message to the company accountant, "Hold a shareholders meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Then I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes. It was my last night in this house. The next morning, Roxana woke up early. She changed into a white dress and twirled in front of the mirror. "Do I look good?" "You do. Then I'll wear this to the wedding planner today." She smiled sweetly. "Jacob, we'll be married in 3 days. I'm so excited." I said nothing, just looked at her. She seemed to sense something was off and came over to touch my forehead. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" "No." I took her hand. "Roxana, whose child are you carrying?" Her smile froze. After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly yanked her hand away. "What are you talking about?" "Yesterday, while you were showering, I saw the pregnancy report," I said calmly. 8 weeks. We haven't slept together for 3 months. Roxana's face went pale instantly. She opened her mouth as if to explain, but no words came out. "It's Damien's, isn't it?" I went on. "You ran into him at that charity gala 3 months ago. That night, you said you were going to a bar with your girlfriends, but you went to see him. You investigated me." Her voice was trembling. "I didn't have to. Your phone screen was lit up, and I happened to see his message." I stood up. "After that, I looked into it. You met more than once." Roxana suddenly dropped to her knees and clung to my leg. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Jacob. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to get pregnant. Or you didn't mean to cheat. I can't forget him." She sobbed, gasping for air. I thought I was over him, but the moment I saw him again, I realized I still love him. "So you slept with him, got pregnant with his child, and still plan to marry me?" "No." She lifted her tear-streaked face. "I love you. I really do. You just love him more." I finished for her. She didn't deny it. I bent down and gently pried her hands off me. "Roxana, let's break up." "No." She clutched my shirt desperately. "Jacob, please. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." "You're not wrong," I said quietly. "I'm just not enough. You never loved me. You just used me as a substitute." The doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Roxana's father, Cameron, was standing there with 2 bodyguards behind him. Mr. Ning, we need to talk, Cameron said coldly. I stepped aside. Please, come in. Cameron entered, glanced at his daughter kneeling on the floor, and sighed. Roxana, get up. She stood, crying, and hid behind him. Mr. Ning, Cameron said bluntly, this is Roxana's fault, but the wedding is already arranged, the guests invited. Canceling it now would hurt both the Mao family and you, so I'll give you 50 million as compensation. Cameron took out a check from his briefcase. The wedding goes on as planned. After the baby is born, I'll have it taken care of. You and Roxana can live your lives. I looked at the check and suddenly laughed. Uncle Mao, do you think I need money? Even if you don't, it's compensation, Cameron said, his tone hardening. Mr. Ning, you know how powerful the Mao family is in this city. If you insist on breaking up, I can't guarantee your company will survive smoothly. A threat, a naked threat. And what if I told you I've already transferred all the company's money? Cameron's expression changed. What do you mean? The 83 million in the company account, it's all in my personal account now. I showed him my phone with the transfer records. I'll take your 50 million, though. Jacob, Roxana screamed. How dare you? That's company money. The company is mine alone, I said, turning to Cameron. It's right there in the contract. 100% of the shares belong to me. Your Mao family was just an angel investor. You cashed out long ago. Cameron's face darkened. You planned this from the start, didn't you? It wasn't planned, I said calmly, taking the check. Just a last-minute decision last night. Uncle Mao, I'll take this 50 million as compensation for 3 years of emotional damage. You'll regret this. Roxana Mao lunged toward me, but the bodyguards held her back. The only thing I regret, I said, looking straight at her, is ever meeting you. Roxana, I wish you and Damien happiness. With that, I picked up the suitcase I'd packed the night before and walked out without looking back. Behind me came Roxana's heart-wrenching cries, but I didn't turn around. Outside the apartment building, the sunlight was blinding. I took a deep breath, the suffocating weight in my chest finally lifted. My phone rang. It was Mickey, my partner and childhood friend. Jacob, did you really empty out the company's account? Yeah. Left 10 million for operations. Transferred the rest. What's next? I'm heading south to start a new company, I said, opening the car door. There's a project down there I've had my eye on for a while. The Mao family won't let this go easily. I know. I started the engine. That's why I have to move faster. When I hung up, I glanced at the rearview mirror. Roxana was standing on the balcony, watching me drive away. Her hand rested gently on her belly, as if protecting something. How ironic. She was protecting another man's child. And the 3 years I gave her, maybe they meant less to her than that unborn baby. Forget it. I pressed down on the accelerator and sped away. This time, I was living for myself. The project in South City went smoother than I expected. With 80 million and my core team, I registered the new company within a month and rented out an entire floor in an office tower. Mickey came with me to handle RD, along with a few trusted old employees. Jacob, the Mao family's making moves, Mickey said, walking into my office with a tablet. They've reached out to several of our major clients, trying to get them to terminate their contracts. As expected, I signed a document and looked up. What did the clients say? 2 already confirmed they'll cancel. 3 others are still hesitating. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. The Mao family was powerful, but not invincible. Send me the details of those 3 clients. I'll talk to them myself. Got it. Mickey hesitated. Jacob, you don't have to push yourself this hard. We have enough cash. We can afford to slow down. No, we can't. I stared out the window. Cameron Mao won't give me any breathing room. I need to stabilize before he shuts every door. For the past month, I'd barely slept. Days spent negotiating with clients. Nights drafting proposals. 3 or 4 hours of sleep at most. But I didn't feel tired. If anything, I felt alive. At least I didn't have to think about Roxana anymore, didn't have to feel cold every time I remembered her lies. At 8 in the evening, I walked out of a client's office, having just secured a 20 million deal. Standing under the office tower, I lit a cigarette. The nights in South City were quieter than in the north, no dazzling neon lights, just a few scattered street lamps beneath a sky full of stars. My phone rang. A strange number. I answered. Hello. Mr. Ning, this is Tiffany. Tiffany. I'd heard that name before, the founder of the largest venture capital firm in South City, a legend in the investment world. Miss Su. Hello. I stubbed out my cigarette. What can I do for you? I've read your project proposal. It's quite interesting, she said, her tone calm and composed. Do you have time to meet? I'd like to discuss an investment. Investment? I hadn't expected anyone to reach out this quickly. Of course, I replied. If you're available, we can meet now. Now works. She gave me an address. Baiyun Cafe. I'll be on the 2nd floor. After hanging up, I called a cab and headed there. Baiyun Cafe was a well-known upscale spot in South City, elegantly decorated, exuding quiet luxury. Its patrons were all business elites. I went upstairs and immediately spotted her sitting by the window. She was dressed in a black suit, her long hair tied neatly behind her head, eyes fixed on the documents before her. "Miss Su," I approached. She looked up, and for a moment, I was stunned. She was beautiful. Not the fragile, soft kind of beauty Roxana had, but sharp, commanding, a beauty that could cut. Sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, crimson lips, and a gaze so sharp it felt like it could pierce right through me. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the seat across from her. I sat down, and she pushed a folder toward me. "I've studied your project," she began directly. "An AI-powered customer service system, strong market potential, solid technical barriers. I'm willing to invest $50 million for a 20% stake. $50 million for 20%, that was an excellent offer." "Miss Su, may I ask something?" I looked at her. "Why me? There are plenty of AI companies in South City, many stronger than mine because you ran from North City," she said, taking a sip of coffee, "which means you have guts. And the Mao family is trying to block you. That tells me you've touched their interests. I like competitors who make powerful people nervous." She didn't mince words. "You're not afraid of offending the Mao family? The Mao family rules North City, but here in the South," she smiled faintly, "they're not that powerful." She set down her cup. "Mr. Ning, you don't have to answer right now. Think it over." "No need." "I agree." Her brows lifted slightly. "You decided that quickly. Your offer's fair, and honestly, I need both capital and connections right now." I extended my hand. "Pleasure working with you." She shook it firmly. "Pleasure working with you." Her hand was cool, but her grip was strong. "Oh, by the way," she said, picking up her bag, "there's a business association event the day after tomorrow. Come with me. I'll introduce you to some people. It'll help your company." "All right." She turned to leave, then looked back. "Mr. Ning, your feud with the Mao family doesn't concern me, but I hope you won't let personal emotions affect your work." "I won't," I said seriously. "That's all in the past." She studied me for a few seconds, then nodded and left, her heels clicking crisply on the floor. I sat there, watching her disappear down the stairs. That woman was strong, but she was also real, not like Roxana, who was all eyes. When I got back to the office, Mickey was still working late. "Jacob, how'd it go?" "It's done. Tiffany's investing $50 million for 20%. "Holy shit." Mickey jumped up. "Tiffany Su, the investment queen of South City." "Yeah, Jacob, you're incredible." Mickey lunged to hug me, but I pushed him away. "Don't get too excited. She's taking me to a business association event the day after tomorrow. Then you'd better get ready. Everyone at those events are big players. Getting to know them could do wonders for us." I smiled faintly and said nothing. Deep down, I knew Tiffany's investment in me wasn't just because of my project's potential. It was more than that. She saw my potential as a person, and the leverage I represented against the Mao family. She was a businesswoman, and every decision a businesswoman makes has a calculation behind it. But that didn't matter. At least she wouldn't lie to me. That was enough. That night, back at my rented apartment, I showered and lay down on the bed. When I picked up my phone, I saw dozens of unread messages from Roxana. "Jacob, I really know I was wrong. Please come back. Okay, I can't live without you. Have mercy on me and the baby, please." I didn't even finish reading them. I blocked her number directly. Then I opened my social feed and deleted every single photo that had anything to do with her. 3 years of love, gone. Just like that, but I didn't regret it, because she was the one who betrayed me first. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. Tomorrow would be a new day, and I had to keep moving forward. As for Roxana, she could stay in the past. The Business Association's banquet was held at South City's most luxurious hotel. I arrived 10 minutes early, wearing a new suit. Tiffany was already waiting at the entrance. Tonight, she wore a deep wine-red evening gown, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, a completely different look from her usual sharp and professional image. "On time," she said, glancing at her watch. "Let's go." I followed her into the grand hall. The place was already lively, men in tailored suits, women in elegant gowns, laughter mingling with the soft sound of jazz. "I'll introduce you to a few people," Tiffany said, handing me a glass of champagne. "But remember, at events like this, listen more, talk less." "Understood." She led me to a middle-aged man. "Mr. Jean, long time no see." "Tiffany." He smiled broadly and shook her hand. "I heard you've invested in another new project." "Yes." She turned to me. "This is Jacob, founder of the company I've just invested in. AI Intelligent Customer Service Systems. Mr. Ning, a pleasure to finally meet you." Mr. Jean extended his hand. I was a little surprised, but I shook it politely. "You flatter me, Mr. Jean. I've heard of your project. It's promising." He patted my shoulder. "Come by my office sometime. We'll talk in detail." "Of course." I appreciate the opportunity. After that, Tiffany introduced me to several more people, all heavyweights in South City's business circle. I could tell they were polite, even friendly, but also quietly assessing me, testing whether I was worth their time. Mr. Ning, young and capable, said one of them, a CEO named Wang. I heard you're from North City. That's right. Why not stay there and keep developing your business? Because South City has a larger market and more opportunities. I kept my tone calm. Besides, I wanted a change of environment. A change of environment. He gave a knowing smile. I heard you and the Mao family had some disagreements. Of course, they all knew my story. The Mao family is the Mao family, I said evenly. And I'm me, Mr. Wang. When I do business, I judge by projects and ability, nothing else. Bold. He raised his glass. I like that. We clinked glasses and drank. Tiffany didn't say anything beside me, but I knew she was watching. Halfway through the event, I excused myself to the restroom. As I walked down the hallway, a familiar voice stopped me in my tracks. Roxana, what are you doing here? It was Damien. I stopped walking and hid behind a marble pillar. I came to find Jacob. Roxana's voice trembled, thick with tears. He blocked me. I can't reach him. What do you want with him? Damien's tone was impatient. You already decided to keep the baby, didn't you? I regret it. Roxana choked up. Damien, I realized I still love Jacob. I shouldn't have lied to him. What's the point of saying that now? Damien sounded annoyed. You made your choice, and now you regret it. But Enough. Damien snapped. Roxana, let me make this clear. I'm not going to marry you. If you want to keep the baby, fine. If not, get rid of it. But stop bothering me. What did you say? Roxana's voice rose sharply. Damien, this is your child. I know, he said coldly, but I never said I'd take responsibility. You're the one who insisted on keeping it, you bastard. A sharp slap echoed down the hallway. I stepped out from behind the pillar. Roxana was clutching her cheek, and Damien had just shoved her hand away. Don't act like a victim, Roxana, he sneered, straightening his collar. You came to me first. Don't play the poor woman now. You think that'll make me soft? Damien, Roxana cried out in despair. And then she saw me. In that instant, her expression froze. Jacob. I said nothing. I just looked at her quietly. She looked terrible, nothing like the woman I once knew. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her face pale, her whole figure thinner, fragile. What are you doing here? I asked flatly. I came to find you. She stepped forward, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. Jacob, please, let's start over. Okay. Start over. I laughed. Roxana, do you think you deserve that? I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. Jacob, I don't want Damien anymore. I just want you, but I don't want you. I looked her in the eyes. Roxana, listen carefully. I'm not going back. Why? She screamed. I'm begging you. Jacob, why can't you forgive me? Because you're not worth it. I turned to leave, but she suddenly wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. Jacob, please, I can't live without you, she cried, her voice breaking. Without you, I'll die. That's your problem. I pried her hands away. Roxana, don't bother me again. When I walked back into the banquet hall, Tiffany was standing at the entrance, watching me. Ran into your ex? She asked. Yeah. How did it go? I said what needed to be said. I adjusted my suit. Miss Sue, shall we continue? She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Let's go. That night, I met countless people and collected several business cards. On the drive back, Tiffany suddenly spoke. Jacob, I admire your decisiveness. What? Your attitude toward your ex. She kept her eyes on the road. A man who hesitates over the past will never accomplish great things. I smiled faintly and didn't reply. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I had truly moved on, but I knew one thing. I couldn't look back, because looking back meant losing. When the car stopped in front of my apartment, I opened the door to get out. Tiffany called after me. Jacob. Yeah. If you ever need help, she said softly, you can come to me. Why? I asked. Because you're worth it. Then she stepped on the gas and drove away into the night. I stood there, watching Tiffany's taillights fade into the night. That woman really was something else. Back home, I showered and lay on my bed. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mickey. Jacob, the Mao family's at it again. This time, they've gone after our suppliers. I frowned. Cameron Mao was moving faster than I'd anticipated. Got it. We'll deal with it tomorrow. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. This war had only just begun. The next morning, my phone rang early. It was one of our suppliers. They were polite, even apologetic, but the meaning was clear. Due to policy adjustments, they couldn't continue working with us. I didn't need to ask why. By noon, all 3 of our key suppliers had terminated their contracts. Jacob, this can't go on. Mickey paced anxiously. Without suppliers, our project's dead in the water. I know. I stared at the flood of termination emails on my screen. But the Mao family's influence hasn't fully reached South City yet. We still have a chance. What do we do now? Find new suppliers. I stood up. South City's huge. There's no way the Mao family controls everyone. For the next week, I practically lived on the road. I visited every major supplier in South City. Some rejected me outright. Some quoted outrageous prices, and others just said they'd think about it. On the 8th day, I finally found one willing to cooperate. The owner was a man in his 40s named Zhang. After listening to my story, he smiled and said, "Young man, I like your spirit. You don't give up. Mr. Fu, you're willing to work with me." Willing. He patted my shoulder firmly. "But I have one condition." "Name it." "When the project succeeds, I want 5% of the profit." 5% wasn't unreasonable. "Deal." I extended my hand. He shook it with a grin. "I've got a good feeling about you, kid." With the supply issue resolved, the project finally started moving forward again. But the Mao family didn't stop there. They began spreading rumors online, accusing me of embezzling funds, calling my company a scam. Within hours, the internet exploded. "Jacob, the company's phones won't stop ringing," Mickey said in panic. "Everyone's asking for refunds." "Ignore them," I said coldly. "Tell the legal department to prepare a lawsuit. We'll take the defamers to court." But lawsuits take time. The public opinion's already turning against us. I know. I opened my laptop. But we can't panic. The worse the storm gets, the calmer we need to be. That afternoon, I published an official statement on the company website and all social media platforms. In it, I addressed every rumor point by point, attached financial reports and project progress data for full transparency, and publicly exposed the Mao family's interference. Suppliers pressured to back out. Clients threatened to withdraw. Everything. The effect was immediate. Public opinion flipped overnight. So he's being crushed by a big corporation. Poor guy's just trying to make it. Mao family's a monopoly. Disgusting. We stand with you, CEO Ning. Keep fighting. The comment sections were flooded with support. The Mao family hadn't expected such a direct counterattack and found themselves suddenly on the defensive. "Jacob, you're a genius," Mickey nearly shouted. "The internet's all on our side now." "This is just the first step," I said, closing my laptop. "The Mao family won't stop here." My voice was calm, but my resolve was steel, because this wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. That night, just as I expected, Cameron called. "Jacob, you're playing with fire." His voice was icy. "Uncle Mao, you struck first." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm only defending myself. You think public opinion will save you?" He sneered. "Jacob, you're still too young. Then we'll see who burns first." I hung up without hesitation. A few seconds later, my phone rang again. It was Tiffany. "Well done," she said bluntly. "But the Mao family won't stop." "Be careful." "I know. Come to my office tomorrow," she said. "I'll introduce you to some lawyers. If you're going to fight this war, prepare for a long one." "All right." When the call ended, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the dazzling lights of South City. The skyline glimmered, the streets below alive with motion. This city would be my new beginning. The Mao family wanted to destroy me. I would make sure I thrived instead. The next morning, I went to Tiffany's company. Her office was on the top floor, spacious, minimalist, with a wall of glass overlooking the entire city. "Sit." She gestured to the sofa. I sat down, and she poured me a cup of tea. "These are the best lawyers in South City," she said, introducing the team seated across from me. "They'll handle the Mao family's lawsuit against you." "Lawsuit?" I frowned. "Yes, the Mao family just filed it this morning, accusing you of defamation, demanding a public apology and 50 million in damages." 50 million. Exactly the same amount as the breakup fee. "They want their money back," I said with a cold smile. "What a convenient move. Which is why you need to be prepared," Tiffany said seriously. "This won't be easy, but you do have a chance." For the next 2 hours, the lawyers walked me through every detail, the charges, the evidence, our defense strategy. I listened carefully, asked questions when I needed to, and took notes. All the while, Tiffany sat quietly beside me, observing. When the meeting ended and the lawyers left, the office fell silent. Only the hum of the air conditioning remained. "Jacob," she said suddenly, "aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" "Of losing." I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No, why not?" "Because I already lost once," I said, meeting her eyes. "When Roxana betrayed me, I hit rock bottom. But this time, it's different. I'm fighting for myself. Win or lose, it's my own choice." Her gaze softened, something complicated flickering behind her composure. "Miss Su," I said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Go ahead. Why are you helping me?" She was silent for a few seconds before walking toward the window. "Because you remind me of who I used to be," she said softly. "When I was young, I was crushed too, looked down on, humiliated. But I didn't give up. I climbed my way up, one step at a time. So you see yourself in me?" "No." She turned back, eyes calm and steady. "I see your determination." "Jacob, do you know what's scarier than failure? Giving up. As long as you don't give up, there's always a chance to turn things around." Her words settled deep in my chest, warm and grounding. "Thank you, Miss Su." "No need," she smiled. "You earned my respect." She glanced at the clock. By the way, there's a dinner tonight. Interested? What kind of dinner? A business association gathering. Lots of influential people will be there. She smiled faintly. It'll be good for your network. All right, I said. I'll go. That night, I followed Tiffany to the dinner. At the table, the conversation revolved around recent business developments. Inevitably, someone brought up my feud with the Mao family. President Ning is quite bold. One businessman chuckled. Takes guts to go head-to-head with the Mao family. It's not about guts, I said, raising my glass. They forced my hand. I'm just defending myself. I hope I can count on everyone's guidance. Of course, came the chorus of polite replies as glasses clinked all around. Then, without warning, the private room door burst open. Roxana stood there. Her belly was unmistakably round beneath a loose dress. Jacob. Her voice trembled, eyes pleading. The room went silent. Tiffany frowned. Where's security? How did she get in? I let her in. Another voice answered. Damien entered, slipping an arm around Roxana's shoulders. Sorry to interrupt, everyone, he said smoothly. I just came to have a quick word with Mr. Ning. About what? I set down my glass. About Roxana. He smiled faintly. Mr. Ning, she's pregnant now. Can't you show some mercy for old time's sake and help her out? Help her? I let out a cold laugh. What does she need my help for? She wants to get back together. Damien's words were casual, almost mocking. You know the baby's mine. But I'm not planning to take responsibility. Roxana can't let go of you, so I figured maybe you two could. Enough. I cut him off sharply. Damien, are you here just to disgust me? I'm only being honest. He shrugged. Think about it, Mr. Ning. I stood, walked right up to Roxana. She lifted her head, hope flickering in her tear-filled eyes. Roxana, listen carefully. I spoke each word slowly, firmly. I will never forgive you. Not in this lifetime. I turned and left the room. Her sobs followed me down the hallway, but I didn't look back. Jacob. Wait, Tiffany called, catching up. I stopped. You okay? She asked quietly. I'm fine. I took a deep breath. Miss Sue, I'd like to be alone for a while. All right. She nodded. Call me if you need anything. I stepped out of the hotel and lit a cigarette. Smoke curled upward as memories swirled through my head. Roxana's first smile. The nights we ate street food together. The promises she made to grow old by my side. All gone. She destroyed everything with her own hands. And me? All I could do was keep moving forward. The lawsuit dragged on longer than I expected. The Mao family had hired one of the top legal teams in the country. Every hearing was a battlefield, sharp, relentless, unforgiving. But Tiffany's lawyers were seasoned fighters too. Each time, they found ways to turn the pressure back on our opponents. Mr. Ning, the Mao family's attorney demanded in court. Do you have proof that the Mao family engaged in commercial suppression against your company? Yes. I held up a stack of documents. These are termination letters from 3 suppliers, all dated the same day, all citing policy adjustments. Tell me, is that just coincidence? That doesn't prove the Mao family was behind it. Then how about this? I produced a USB drive, a recording. One supplier's owner said, and I quote, Chairman Mao put us under tremendous pressure. We had no choice. Now tell me, who else could that Chairman Mao be referring to? The lawyer's face darkened. The judge tapped the gavel. Defense. Please address the plaintiff's evidence directly. After a moment of silence, the Mao family's lawyer said stiffly, we'll need time to verify the authenticity of this recording. Very well, the judge said. Court is adjourned. Next session to be scheduled. Outside the courthouse, Mickey clapped me on the shoulder, grinning. Jacob, you crushed them. Did you see the look on their lawyer's face? He was green. Don't celebrate too early. I gathered the files. They'll come back harder. So what? We've got Miss Sue backing us up. And it was true, Tiffany had done more for me than I ever expected. It wasn't just the legal team. She'd helped with financing, networking, even little details in my day-to-day life. That evening, my phone buzzed. Dinner tonight. It was Tiffany. I glanced at the clock. 7 p.m. Sure. We met at a quiet Japanese restaurant. The kind with soft lighting and only a few tables occupied. The air smelled faintly of grilled fish and sake. You've been working hard lately, Tiffany said, pouring me a cup of sake. I've had worse. I took the cup. Honestly, I couldn't have managed this far without your help. Miss Sue, don't call me that. She smiled. Just Tiffany. We're friends now, aren't we? I hesitated for a moment. Then, Tiffany. She nodded approvingly and raised her glass. To friendship. To friendship. A few cups later, the atmosphere softened. Jacob, she said suddenly, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you still love Roxana? I froze. It was a question I had asked myself countless times but never found an answer to. I don't know, I said honestly. Sometimes I think I hate her. Other times, I'm not sure. Maybe I just stopped caring. What if she truly regretted it? Tiffany pressed. Would you forgive her? No. I shook my head firmly. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Good. She exhaled in relief. I was worried you'd go soft. Why? I asked with a faint smile. Because I've seen too many men say they've moved on, until their ex cries, and suddenly they forget all the pain. Her eyes held mine. But you're not like that. I can tell. I'm glad. Her words stirred something in me. Tiffany, why are you so kind to me? She fell silent for a moment, then said quietly, because you give me hope. Hope? Hope that not all men are trash, she said with a wry smile. I've been hurt before too, so I know what it feels like. So she had her own story. Can I ask what happened? Why not? She took a sip of sake. 5 years ago, I was in grad school. I had a boyfriend. We'd been together 3 years. I thought we'd get married. Then he cheated on me with my best friend. What did you do? I started a business, she said simply. Worked myself half to death. Made my first million. And when he came crawling back, I realized I didn't need to prove anything to him anymore. The best revenge, she smiled faintly, is success. So you made it. Yes. She met my eyes. And you will too, Jacob. I believe in you. We talked for hours that night, about work, about life, about everything in between. I found Tiffany fascinating. She looked cold and unapproachable on the outside, but inside she was warm, thoughtful, and quietly fierce. She understood my pain, and respected my resolve. For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. When I drove her home later that night, she suddenly turned to me. Jacob, she said softly, can I court you? I blinked. What? I know the timing's bad, she said seriously, her gaze steady. But I don't want to wait. I like you, ever since the first time we met. Tiffany, you don't have to answer now, she interrupted, smiling faintly. Just tell me when you're ready. She got out of the car and waved goodbye, her silhouette slowly fading into the glow of the streetlights. I sat there for a long time, my emotions tangled. The truth was, I liked her too. She was smart, independent, strong, everything Roxana wasn't, but I didn't know if I was ready to love again. Back home, I showered and lay down. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Roxana. Somehow, she'd gotten my new number. Jacob, I gave birth. It's a girl. She looks just like you. Will you come see her? I stared at the message without replying. Her child, what did that have to do with me? Deleting the chat, I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. Tomorrow would be another day. I had to keep moving forward. No more stopping for people or mistakes from the past. The next morning, the trial resumed. This time, the Mao family brought new evidence, the breakup agreement I had signed. Mr. Ning, their lawyer said, holding up the document. This is your signature, correct? Yes, I said calmly. I signed it, and you did so voluntarily, without coercion. I signed it, I said, but under threat from Mr. Cameron Mao. The lawyer smirked. Do you have proof of that claim? I do. I held up my phone. Here's the recording. Cameron said, and I quote, if you insist on breaking up, I can't guarantee your company's future. If that's not a threat, what is it? That was simply a business discussion, the lawyer replied smoothly. Business discussion, I sneered. He explicitly said he'd destroy my company. Does that sound like normal communication to you? The judge banged the gavel. Order in the court. Both parties will remain calm. The hearing stretched into the afternoon. Finally, the judge announced, court adjourned. The verdict will be delivered after deliberation. When I stepped out of the courthouse, I felt the exhaustion hit me all at once. 4 weeks. I'd been balancing this lawsuit and the company's operations, sleeping no more than 3 or 4 hours a night. Jacob, you don't look good, Mickey said worriedly. You should see a doctor. I'm fine. I waved him off. Just tired. Let's get back to the office. When we got back, I had barely sat down before my secretary knocked on the door. Mr. Ning, there's a lady outside asking for you. Who? She said her name is Roxana. My face darkened. Tell her to leave. I don't want to see her, she said. The secretary hesitated. If you won't see her, she'll kneel outside the building. I was silent for a few seconds, then stood up. I'll go. Roxana stood at the entrance, a small baby cradled in her arms. She looked worse than the last time I'd seen her, pale, frail, her eyes swollen from crying. Jacob, the moment she saw me, tears spilled down her cheeks. What do you want? My voice was cold. I want you to meet your daughter, she whispered, holding out the baby. Look, she looks just like you. I didn't take her. Roxana, I said flatly. She's not my child. But, she choked. Damien doesn't want us anymore. You're all I have left. That's your problem, I said, turning away. Not mine. Jacob, she screamed behind me. Are you really this heartless? I stopped, turned, and met her tearful gaze. Heartless? I laughed bitterly. Roxana, when you cheated on me, did you ever wonder if I'd feel heartbroken? When you planned to marry me while carrying another man's child, did you ever think about my heart? I was wrong, she sobbed. I really was. Jacob, I swear. It's too late. I looked at her one last time. Roxana, stop showing up. Don't make me hate you even more. I turned and walked away. Behind me, her wailing filled the street. but I didn't look back, because I knew, the moment I looked back, I'd lose. The verdict was finally out. The court ruled in my favor. The Mao family lost the case. They were ordered to make a public apology and compensate me $10 million for emotional damages. Jacob, we won. Mickey practically jumped out of his seat. I looked down at the judgment papers, feeling nothing. Victory didn't bring joy, because no matter how much I won, those 3 lost years weren't coming back. Let's go, I said, standing up. Dinner's on me tonight. That evening, I treated the whole team to a celebration dinner. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses, talking about the future. Tiffany came too. She raised her glass toward me. Congratulations, Mr. Ning. A well-earned victory. Thanks to you, I said, touching my glass to hers. She smiled. Not me, you. You fought for yourself. After dinner, she insisted on driving me home. Halfway there, she suddenly asked, Jacob, have you thought about it? About what? The question I asked before. Her eyes met mine. Can I chase you? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. You can. For a second she looked stunned, then her lips curved into a bright, unguarded smile. Took you long enough, she teased softly. I want to try, I said seriously. Tiffany, I can't promise I'll fall in love right away, but I can promise I'll treat this relationship sincerely. That's enough, she said, squeezing my hand. I'll wait until you're ready. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in months. The next morning, the Mao family posted their public apology, but I knew Cameron wouldn't stop there. And sure enough, just a few days later, my company received a purchase offer. An investment firm wanted to acquire 51% of our shares, offering $10 billion. Jacob, this is huge. Mickey's eyes were wide. $10 billion. We'd be financially free. I scanned the documents and smiled coldly. You really think fortune falls from the sky? That firm's backed by the Mao family. What? They're trying to buy control, bit by bit, I said. Once they do, they'll push me out. So what do we do? Reject it. I tossed the offer into the trash. Tell them my company isn't for sale. The Mao family didn't expect me to refuse. They came back with a higher offer. $15 billion. That was far beyond the company's market value. But I turned them down again. Then my phone rang. Cameron. Jacob, are you insane? His voice crackled with anger. $15 billion. What more do you want? It's not about money, Uncle Mao, I said calmly. I didn't build this company to sell it. Then what do you want? I want to prove I can succeed without the Mao family. Silence. Then, a cold laugh. We'll see about that. He hung up. A minute later, a message from Tiffany popped up on my phone. Good job. Don't flinch. I smiled faintly. Never. The days that followed were smoother than ever. Our new product launched to overwhelming demand. Orders came in non-stop. And for the first time, I felt like I was truly steering my own future. 3 months later, the company's valuation reached 2 billion yuan. The Mao family, seeing me grow more and more successful, began resorting to other tricks. They hired online trolls to smear my company, claiming our products had quality issues. We immediately released a third-party inspection report, proving that there were no problems whatsoever. At the same time, I instructed the legal department to sue those marketing accounts spreading rumors. Then, the Mao family tried to contact my clients, attempting to poach them away. But my clients trusted me deeply. None of them left. President Ning, we've enjoyed working with you. No matter what the Mao family offers, we won't leave. One of them told me. I was deeply moved. It meant that all my efforts had not been in vain. 6 months later, our company had firmly established itself in South City, becoming a dark horse in the industry. My relationship with Tiffany was also getting better and better. She was independent and never clingy, but she always showed up when I needed her. Jacob, my parents want to meet you, she suddenly said one day. Meet your parents? I was a bit nervous. Yeah, get ready, she smiled. Don't worry, my parents are easy to get along with. On the day of the meeting, my palms were sweating from nervousness, but Tiffany's parents were indeed very kind and seemed satisfied with me. You're a good young man, full of potential, her father said, patting my shoulder. We're at ease knowing Tiffany's with you, her mother added with a smile. That evening, Tiffany drove me home. See, I told you they're nice, she said proudly. I was just too nervous, I admitted with relief. Jacob, she suddenly turned serious. We've been together for a while now. Do you have feelings for me? I looked into her eyes and nodded. Yes. What kind of feelings? The kind that makes me want to walk through life with you, I said, holding her hand. Tiffany, will you be with me? I've been waiting for you to say that, she said with a radiant smile, throwing herself into my arms. In that moment, I suddenly felt that life had hope again. Roxana was my past, but Tiffany, she was my future. The next day, Tiffany and I made our relationship public. The business world was in an uproar, full of congratulations. When the Mao family heard the news, Cameron's face was said to have turned dark. As for Roxana, when she saw the news, she broke down. She sent me a long message, saying she regretted it, that she couldn't live without me, but I didn't read a single line. I deleted it right away. Because I knew she didn't regret hurting me, she regretted losing the man I had become. If I were still that penniless Jacob from before, would she regret it? No, she only regretted missing out on a rising star. That kind of regret, I didn't need. When the news of our company going public spread, the entire business world turned its attention to us. The Mao family couldn't sit still anymore. They began frequently contacting my partners, trying to undermine the company from within. Jacob, a few partners have been poached by the Mao family, Mickey said worriedly. Expected, I said, gazing out the window. But it's fine, those who left were fair-weather friends. The ones who stay are truly loyal. But if this keeps up, our losses, short-term, yes, there'll be losses. I turned around calmly. But in the long run, it's good for us. The unfaithful are gone, and the ones who join next will be the dependable kind. Sure enough, it didn't take long before new partners started approaching us. And they weren't just anyone, they were some of the best in the industry. President Ning, we've wanted to work with you for a long time, one of them said. But the Mao family was putting pressure on us before, and we didn't dare to act rashly. Now that you've secured your position in South City, we're not afraid anymore. Welcome aboard, I said, shaking his hand. The company kept growing stronger, and its valuation continued to climb. That day, I was in the middle of a meeting when my secretary suddenly knocked on the door. President Ning, someone's here to see you. Who? She says she's Roxana's mother. I frowned, but still told her to let the woman in. Mrs. Mao walked in, wearing a polite, almost flattering smile. President Ning, it's been a long time. Mrs. Mao, what can I do for you? I asked coldly. It's like this, she said cautiously as she sat down. Roxana isn't doing well. The child has no one to look after him. I wanted to ask if you could. Mrs. Mao, I interrupted. Roxana and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. I won't get involved in her affairs. But she's truly miserable now. Mrs. Mao's eyes turned red. President Ning, please, for the sake of what you two once had, help her just this once. What we once had. I gave a cold laugh. It's because of what we once had that I won't help her. President Ning, Mrs. Mao, please leave, I said, standing up. I still have work to do. She wanted to say something more, but when she saw my expression, she sighed quietly and left. After sending her away, I sat back in my chair and rubbed my temples. How long was Roxana planning to keep haunting my life? That night, I had dinner with Tiffany. Roxana's mother came to see me today, I said. What did she want? Tiffany put down her chopsticks. She wanted me to help Roxana. And what did you say? I refused. I met her eyes. Tiffany, I'm not going to soften up. I know, she said, holding my hand. Jacob, I trust you. After dinner, we took a walk together. South City at night was beautiful, gentle streetlights, relaxed pedestrians. Jacob, what do you think our future will be like? Tiffany asked suddenly. It'll be wonderful, I said, wrapping my arm around her. We'll build the company bigger together, then get married, have kids, and live a simple but happy life. Sounds nice, she smiled. So when are you going to propose to me? Soon, I said seriously. Once the company goes public, I'll propose. Then I'll be waiting. When I got home, I turned on my computer and started handling some work. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I picked up. Hello. Jacob, it's me. Roxana's voice came through the line. I frowned. How did you get my number again? Jacob, please, meet me. Just once, she sobbed. Only one last time. After that, I promise I'll never bother you again. I paused for a few seconds. Where? Tomorrow at 2 p.m. At the cafe where we had our first date. I hung up the phone, lost in thought. I didn't want to see her, but I knew that unless I made things completely clear, she would never stop haunting me. The next afternoon, I arrived at the cafe on time. Roxana was already there, waiting. She looked even more haggard than the last time I saw her, her eyes bloodshot, her face pale, her body frail and thin. You came, she said, forcing a weak smile. Say it. What do you want from me? I asked bluntly. I just want to ask, is there really no chance for us anymore? Her tears began to fall. No. Why? She choked out. Jacob, I really know I was wrong. I've lost everything now. You're all I have left. Roxana, you're mistaken. I looked at her calmly. You never had me. So how could you lose me? But we were together for 3 years. Those 3 years, did you really love me? I cut her off. You loved how good I was to you. The sense of security I gave you, but never me as a person. She froze. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have betrayed me the moment Damien appeared. I continued. You didn't love me, you were just addicted to having me around. No, she shook her head desperately. I really loved you. Then tell me. I stared into her eyes. What exactly did you love? My ambition, my kindness, or the success I have now? She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word, because even she didn't know the answer. See, you don't even know, I said, standing up. Roxana, stop lying to yourself. You're not sorry for hurting me, you're just sorry for losing a promising man. If I were still that broke, useless Jacob from before, would you come looking for me? No, you wouldn't. I answered for her. So stop talking about love. You're just unwilling to accept that it's over. With that, I turned to leave. Jacob, she shouted suddenly, do you love Tiffany now? Are you sure you're not just with her to get back at me? I stopped, turned around, and looked at her. I'm sure, I said firmly. Tiffany is nothing like you. She doesn't lie to me. She doesn't betray me. And she never treats me like a backup option. She's genuine with me, and I'm genuine with her. But you don't love her. Roxana screamed, almost hysterical. You don't love her. You're just using her as a replacement for me. And even if she is a replacement, so what? I sneered. At least she's 100 times better than you. Without another word, I turned and walked out. The moment I stepped out of the cafe, I took a deep breath. This time, I knew I had truly let go. Roxana was my past. My future was Tiffany. That night, I told Tiffany about meeting Roxana. What did she say? She asked. She asked if there was still a chance between us. I said, holding her hand. I told her there wasn't. And what else did she say? She said I didn't love you, that I was only with you to get revenge on her. Tiffany was silent for a few seconds, then quietly asked, do you love me? I looked into her eyes and said seriously, yes. Since when? I don't know. I thought for a moment, maybe when you helped me for the first time, maybe when you stood by me through those lawsuits, or maybe when you said, I believe in you. And now, she pressed softly, now I'm sure, I love you. I pulled her into my arms. Tiffany, I know when we first got together, I hadn't completely moved on, but now it's different. Now I'm certain, you're the one I love. She held me tightly, her voice trembling. Jacob, I've waited so long to hear you say that. I'm sorry for making you wait. No, I'm willing to wait, she said, looking up at me, eyes shining with emotion, because you're worth it. That night, we fell asleep in each other's arms. I had a dream. In it, Tiffany and I were getting married. She was in a white wedding dress, smiling so beautifully that it lit up the whole world. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the window, and in that warm light, I made a decision. I was going to propose to Tiffany. The company's IPO date was set for 3 months later. During that time, I was incredibly busy, meetings, audits, negotiations, but I felt grounded and fulfilled, because I knew everything I was doing was for our future. Tiffany was busy too. Her investment firm had taken on several new projects, and she was flying between cities almost every day. But no matter how busy we were, we always made time to video call every night, to talk, laugh, and share updates about work. Jacob, I've noticed the Mao family's recent moves, she said one evening. What kind of moves? They're selling off a lot of their stock. It looks like their cash flow is collapsing. She frowned. Do you think it's because of the lawsuits with you and all those smear campaigns? Maybe they drained too many resources. That's possible, I replied after thinking for a moment. But it's got nothing to do with us. Let them deal with their own mess. True, she nodded, then smiled playfully. By the way, my birthday's next week. Any plans? Of course, I said, grinning mysteriously. You'll find out soon enough. Come on, tell me, she pouted. If I tell you, it won't be a surprise. After hanging up, I immediately began planning the proposal. I hired a professional team, reserved the best seaside restaurant, and bought a ring, a 5-carat diamond, elegant and understated, just the style Tiffany loved. When her birthday arrived, I took her to that restaurant by the sea. I had rented out the entire place. Roses filled the room, and a violinist played her favorite melody softly in the background. Jacob, you, she gasped, eyes wide in surprise. Tiffany, happy birthday, I said, holding her hand as I led her to the center of the room. The music stopped, the lights dimmed, leaving a warm spotlight around us. I got down on one knee and took out the ring. Tiffany, meeting you is the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. You helped me when I was at my lowest, stayed by my side when I needed it most. You showed me that there are still people in this world who can truly care for me. Tiffany, will you marry me? Her hands flew to her mouth as tears spilled from her eyes. Yes, she nodded hard, voice trembling. Yes, I will. I stood, slipped the ring onto her finger, and pulled her into my arms. Applause erupted around us. My friends, who I'd invited secretly, stepped out clapping and cheering. Congratulations, President Ning. Congratulations, Miss Su. Everyone gathered to offer their blessings. That night was the happiest of my life, because I had finally found the person I wanted to spend forever with. When we got home, Tiffany couldn't stop looking at the ring on her hand, smiling from ear to ear. Jacob, I'm so happy, she said, throwing herself into my arms. I'm happy too, I whispered, kissing her forehead. Tiffany, thank you for coming into my life. No, I should thank you, she said softly, looking up at me. Jacob, I love you too. That night, We talked about our future, where to hold the wedding, where to go for our honeymoon, how many kids we might have. Everything felt so perfect. But just then, my phone rang. It was Mickey. Jacob. Something's happened. His voice was urgent. What is it? The Mao family's gone bankrupt. I froze. What did you say? They're bankrupt. The court just announced it. Mickey said quickly. Cameron's been arrested for embezzlement and illegal fundraising. All of the Mao family's assets have been seized. I hung up the phone, lost in thought. The Mao family had gone bankrupt. The news came so suddenly that I didn't know how to react. What's wrong? Tiffany asked. The Mao family's gone bankrupt. I said. What? She was equally shocked. How did that happen so fast? I don't know. I shook my head. But it's got nothing to do with us. We don't need to worry about it. The next day, the news was everywhere. Headlines flooded with the Mao family's downfall. Cameron Mao had been arrested. Mrs. Mao was implicated as well. And the mighty Mao empire crumbled overnight. And Roxana Mao became the biggest casualty of all. She lost everything, her house, her car, her savings, all seized by the authorities. All she had left was her infant daughter, not even a year old. Someone sent me a photo of Roxana. She was standing by the roadside, holding her child, staring blankly at the passing cars. Her eyes were hollow, lifeless, as if her soul had already left her body. Seeing that photo stirred something inside me, but that was all, just a flicker of emotion. Her fate today was the result of her own choices, step by step. If she hadn't betrayed me back then, if she had chosen honesty, maybe her life would be very different now. But there are no ifs in life. No one gets to start over. I turned off my phone and looked out the window. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. My life, finally, had turned a new page. The company went public successfully, and our stock price soared. On the day of the IPO, Tiffany and I rang the ceremonial bell together. At that moment, I felt that every sleepless night, every hardship, every loss, had all been worth it. President Ning, congratulations. Guests called out. Thank you, I replied, shaking hands one after another. At the celebration banquet, I met many old friends and made new ones. Everyone was talking about the company's bright future, about the potential of the market. Tiffany and I stood side by side, accepting blessings and smiles from all directions. President Ning, I heard you two are getting married. Someone asked. Yes, next month, I said, wrapping my arm around Tiffany. You're all invited. We'll definitely be there. After the party, Tiffany and I went home. Finally over, she sighed, kicking off her heels and collapsing on the sofa. I'm exhausted. You've worked hard, my wife, I said, handing her a glass of water. Hey, we're not married yet, she said, blushing. Just getting used to saying it early, I teased, sitting beside her. Tiffany, thank you for staying by my side all these years. Don't say that. She leaned on my shoulder. Jacob, I should be thanking you for showing me what real love is. We sat there quietly, soaking in the peace of the moment. It had been such a hectic time. We hadn't relaxed like this in ages. Jacob, do you ever wonder how Roxana's doing now? She asked suddenly. I don't know, I said, and I don't want to know. That's all in the past. You're right. She nodded. By the way, how's the wedding preparation going? Everything's arranged. You just get ready to be the most beautiful bride. Then I'd better make sure I live up to that, she said with a playful smile. The next month was a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Invitations were sent out, the guest list finalized, the wedding gown fitted and ready. Everything was falling neatly into place. The day before the wedding, I received a call from an unknown number. Mr. Ning, this is a nurse from the People's Hospital. There's a patient named Roxana who wishes to see you. What happened to her? I frowned. She was in a car accident. She's in the ICU right now, the nurse said. She said she has something important to tell you and hopes you can come. I paused for a few seconds. I understand. After hanging up, I sat there, conflicted. Should I go or not? In the end, I decided to go. Not because I still cared about her, but because I wanted to end this chapter once and for all. At the hospital, Roxana lay on the bed, wrapped in bandages from head to toe. You came, she said weakly. What do you want to say? I asked, standing beside her bed. Jacob, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. Tears streamed down her face, but I still want to say. I'm sorry, I know, I said quietly, turning to leave. Jacob, she called out suddenly. I know tomorrow is your wedding. I wish you happiness. I stopped, looked back at her. Roxana, live well, I said simply. Then I walked out of the room. That was it. Our final goodbye. Outside the hospital, I took a deep breath. The sky was clear, the clouds pure white. My life could finally begin anew. The next day, the wedding took place as planned. Tiffany was radiant in her white gown. She looked like an angel. You're beautiful, I whispered as I took her hand and walked down the aisle. You're handsome too, she smiled. Before all our friends and family, we exchanged rings and vows. Jacob, Do you take Tiffany to be your wife, to love and cherish her, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for all the days of your life? I do. Tiffany, do you take Jacob to be your husband, to love and cherish him, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for all the days of your life? I do. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The groom may kiss the bride. I kissed her lips as the hall erupted in applause and cheers. At that moment, I felt like the happiest man alive. After the wedding, we went to the Maldives for our honeymoon. White sand, turquoise waves, and golden sunlight. Everything felt perfect. Jacob, are you happy? She asked, lying on a beach chair beside me. Very happy, I said, taking her hand. I've never been this happy before. Me too, she smiled. Jacob, thank you for marrying me. No, thank you for marrying me. We sat quietly, watching the waves roll in, enjoying our moment of peace and love. The pain of the past had become nothing but a memory, and the future was full of hope. After our honeymoon, we started our new life together. We worked hard during the day, had dinner together every evening, and spent weekends going on little trips outside the city. Ordinary, yet full of happiness. Tiffany was pregnant, and we were both overjoyed. Jacob, who do you think the baby will look like? She asked, gently touching her belly. Like you, I said with a smile. I hope it's a girl, beautiful, just like her mother. And if it's a boy, then he'll look like me, handsome and capable. I teased. You're so full of yourself. She laughed, giving me a playful slap. We joked and laughed like that every day, our life sweet and peaceful. The company was thriving too. We opened branch offices, expanding our business nationwide. Everything was moving in the right direction. One day, while sorting through some documents, I came across Roxana's name. Apparently, she had been discharged from the hospital and was now working at a restaurant, raising her daughter alone. I stared at that name for a moment, feeling nothing. The woman who had once caused me so much pain now had nothing to do with me at all. I closed the folder and went back to work. That evening, Tiffany cooked a full table of dishes. Jacob, dinner's ready, she called out. Coming, I said, walking into the dining room and seeing the feast laid out before me. Wow, honey, you're amazing. Of course, she said proudly. From now on, I'll make delicious meals for you every day. Then I'm the luckiest man alive. We ate together, watched TV together, and chatted about everything and nothing. Life was simple, but so happy. And that was exactly the kind of life I wanted. No need for grand surprises. No need for extravagant romance. As long as the person I love is by my side. Every day is the best day of my life. When our baby was born, a girl, she looked just like Tiffany. Absolutely beautiful. Jacob, look, she's smiling at you, Tiffany said, holding our daughter gently. Really? I leaned closer, and sure enough, our little girl was smiling. In that moment, I felt like I had the whole world in my hands. I named her Iris, hoping her life would always shine as brightly as a rainbow. The days passed peacefully and happily. One afternoon, Mickey called me. Jacob, I just saw Roxana on the street, he said. Oh, I responded calmly. She's having a rough time, he continued, working in a restaurant washing dishes, and her kid looks so thin. Jacob, don't you feel even a little sorry for her? No, I said quietly. Her situation is the result of her own choices. Yeah. I guess you're right, Mickey sighed. Well, it's up to you. After I hung up, Tiffany looked up from the sofa. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing, I replied. Mickey said he saw Roxana. Oh, she nodded lightly and didn't ask further, because she knew that person was part of the past, and our life would never change because of anyone else. That night, I held my daughter in my arms, watching her peaceful, innocent face as she slept. I thought, this must be the greatest happiness life can offer. A loving wife, a beautiful daughter, a thriving career. What more could I possibly ask for? As for Roxana, let her stay in the past. She was a chapter of my life, a painful one, yes, but one that made me grow. Without that experience, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I don't hate her, and I don't resent her. I just hope she finds the strength to live on and be a good mother to her child. As for me, I'll keep moving forward with the woman I love, building a brighter future together. Outside the window, the moonlight was bright and serene. I wrapped my arm around Tiffany and looked at our sleeping daughter, my heart overflowing with peace and gratitude. In this life, I had finally found my true happiness.